What is up, my friends, and welcome back to the Primal Man Pathway, where men build themselves from the inside out to create the life of their dreams. I got my buddy Omar Pinto here, and Omar is a certified NLP practitioner. We're going to roll with it, with over 18 years in the addiction recovery space. He's the host of the Share podcast. Sharing helps addicts in recovery, with over 2 million downloads, and has since launched his new podcast, the Omar Pinto Coaching podcast. Go check that one out. I was on there. So if you have yet to listen to that, hit pause, go check it out, come back here. And as you're going to hear, his success comes from his ability to pierce through mental blockages, preventing his clients from being the most authentic and genuine version of themselves. Omar, how are you, brother?
I'm fantastic. Chase, thanks for having me, buddy. Pumped to start riffing with you today.
Dude, it's going to be very fun. And we're going in on change and transformation. And for some context for the listeners, we were talking beforehand that I was on the baby moon with my wife, and we were looking at, man, we are different people than we were 8 years ago. And what a great conversation for two coaches to have, right? And yes. I would love to kick it off with this question. When did you first realize that growth and high-level change was of extreme value to you?
I guess, wow. If I put it, I guess I could put a year to it. Probably around 2015, 2016, probably about 2016. So in 2015 is when I launched the Share podcast. Mm-hmm. Share stands, it was spelled SHAIR. It's still live on iTunes. So if you want to go back, there's almost 300 episodes. Okay? And Share it's SHAIR, which stood for Sharing Helps Addicts in Recovery. And what I would do is I would interview people that had overcome addiction, right? Mostly people that were like from my community, 12-step community, that had gotten sober and now had, exciting lives, right? Like, the 12-step program had saved their lives. And so I would say that for a good solid, when I first got in recovery, which was in 2003. So I got sober in 2003. And from 2003 to 2016, I was in 12-step recovery. I had launched the podcast, right? And I had just gotten married. I got married in 2014. So I met my wife in 2013, got married in 2014, launched the podcast in 2015. And what I came to realize, and it was something that was kind of like out of the blue, because I was in recovery for so long, right? And the first thing you do when you come into anything that's brand new is you learn. Okay. So I had to learn the 12 steps. I had to learn how to stay sober. Right. And that was growth. Okay. And I now that I look back, or as I even have this conversation, that was growth. I was growing. And so it was the first 5 years of me being in 12 steps was me first learning the 12 steps, going through them myself with my own sponsor, and then taking guys through it. Okay. So it was super exciting because that first 5 years, there was a lot of growth. But from 5 years to 10 years, it was a lot of the same. I wasn't growing. Now, I'm able to articulate that now that I realize, there was the reason why I was losing interest, or the reason why I wasn't as exciting as it was when I first came in, is because it started to become redundant and repetitive. And so something inside of me was pulling me to grow. It's probably why I launched the podcast. And so once I launched the podcast and I was interviewing people, and I would interview people that pretty soon it wasn't in my circle. It was people that would, the podcast was growing in notoriety, was growing. I was probably doing somewhere in the neighborhood of at its peak. I was probably doing 35,000 downloads a month. 6,000 downloads per episode on average. It's usually what it was. Some were bigger than others, right? And so I was meeting lots of new people, and they were talking about things, and I was like, whoa, it's like fascinating stuff these guys are talking about. Maybe I should like look into some of this stuff, right? And so before I knew it, like I was like started to grow again, right? Because I was very much interested in all this new stuff that was kind of coming in, and it started kind of getting me excited about recovery again, because I kind of lost my enthusiasm for recovery. But I realized something now. I wasn't getting excited about recovery again. I was getting excited about growth. So that's I guess when I first discovered that, I consistently need to grow.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I love that you went through the consistently need to grow, because as you were talking, I had this light bulb in my head. Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, how it's a circle, and so many people look at life like a linear journey and think, well, I'm here and I got here and I'm good. And true growth is diving back into the abyss over and over again and creating another cycle of that hero's journey.
I like that.
Thank you.
Okay. Because I think not only I've certainly had those moments, right? Where it's like reach the objective and then just kind of sit here in this, at the end of that journey, that linear journey, right? And I think that for many people, life is outcome oriented. Okay. So we're always seeking an outcome. So I play sports because I want to win. Okay. I want to be the best basketball player. I want to be the best football player. I want to win games. I want to be part of a championship team. Right. So there's an objective. It's not, dude, football's so much fun. I just want to play, man. Like, I'm not worried about winning. I'm not worried about losing. I just want to play, and I want to get better at playing. And I don't know if I've ever really, I don't know, maybe I don't pay attention, but I don't know if I've heard too many people talking about how excited they are about the process versus I want to, well, we want to get to the team championship. We want to win the championship this year, and then this is going to help me get my scholarship to college. And then I'm going to get into college, and then I'm going to, it's going to help me get into college, and there's my scholarship. And then when I'm done with college, then I can go into pro football and play NFL. And there's always this outcome. And then I hit my outcome, and then I'm like, okay, I'm here. Okay. I thought it was going to feel different.
What do I do now? I've used the term destination addiction before for that. I
like that.
Thank you. And people get so wrapped up in that. And you said the process, right? For any goal to become permanent, there must be an underlying change in identity. People look at these destinations as opposed to the process through which to get there that will actually make the journey the destination. And that's, you got something?
Well, no, I was just reminded of I was just reminded of a conversation I had with Austin.
Of course.
Okay. Where it's like, divorce yourself from the outcome and get married to the process. Okay. That's it. Divorce yourself from the outcome, get married to the process. And you will always find fulfillment in that because you're always growing and challenging yourself. And that's how we kind of started the podcast today, right? Because we were like, what do you want to dive into? I was like, you're like, what are you passionate about? It was a very, what are you excited about? What are you passionate about? I was like, oh, good question. Because like, I'm feeling like a little stuck, right? Like even coming into this podcast, I was like, what are we going to be talking about? I hope he's got a good topic because I'm a little off, right? And so I said, I'm feeling like there's a shift happening in my life. And so when I'm irritable, restless, and discontent, it means that it went from diving into the abyss until I've kind of gotten into this kind of linear sort of or I've kind of reached a destination. Like
Yeah.
I went into the journey, I went into the abyss, right? And now I'm like kind of in my journey. And and so there feels like, I even said my energy's off. I'm not 100%.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like something's either off or something's missing or something's about to happen. Right. Cause I can feel it inside my body. My body's just telling me,
Yeah.
something's got to change.
I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to ask about that and circle back to what we were talking about before the podcast. So same wavelength. And what you're talking about there with things just feeling off, and I'll put the link in the show notes for anybody that wants to listen. I have first song of my philosophy album is live on Spotify called Awaken Your Intuition. And I talk in there about not listening. And for anybody listening, we go through it too. People who help people still have times where we're like, oh, what is this dissonance right now? Why am I feeling stuck? And luckily we know how to recognize it, and we can keep the revolution going. And I say in there that oftentimes not being fully aware of or not listening to our intuition can present as a nagging wife or a horrible boss or a job we don't enjoy, because we've put ourselves in these situations. And it's like, okay, these things now are a sign. And you, my friend, are a gangster enough to realize that this is a sign. What's next? So what is it a sign of? What's knocking at the door?
I have no idea. Okay. I just know that, and it's the oddest thing because it started this morning. It's not like this has been, it's like this dissonance and this, I'm stuck.
Yeah.
Right. Started this morning. Like I was off this morning. I went to my wife and I'm like, man, I'm not feeling good. Like I'm off, like, ugh, and so, now that, my business has evolved, in different ways. Okay. My coaching has evolved a little bit, and I'm also doing plant medicine work with my clients. So they come down on the weekends. Right. And so for the last 3 weekends, we've had clients in the house. Right. And I've got another one coming up this weekend. Right. And then thank God the following weekend, we don't have someone. But what I'm learning is that I might be burning the candle on both ends, because it felt like I was coming into this week not fully rested, not fully charged, a little bit off. Am I doing too much? Not inspired to do the things that I normally do. Right. Part of me wants to chuck the podcast. It's like enough. I've been doing podcasts since 2015. When's it going to end? Right. Does it need to end? Right. Maybe it just needs to change. Maybe I just need to evolve. Right. I've already changed. I went from recovery to coaching. Maybe I need to shift in another direction. Maybe I need to have a new conversation, which is what we're having right now. We're having a new conversation. I've got no idea what's coming next, but I know I'm going to have to sit with it. I know I'm going to have to sit with the discomfort. And I certainly do have a good meditative practice. So that has always, pulled me out. Okay. I've never been like a daily meditator until recently. Okay. So most of the time it's been in times where I've been lost, times where I've just like this, like right now in this place is like, oh, I've got to meditate every single morning, because, eventually after 3, 5, 10 days, okay, of like consistent morning meditation, right, all of a sudden I'll get the answer. Right. It's never let me down. Meditation has never let me down. For some people, it's a tough thing. It's a practice that takes a lot of vigilance. It takes a lot of patience. Go ahead.
Well, for a lot of, from what I've seen, a lot of individuals too are uncomfortable with what comes up. So they say, well, I don't like to meditate. Do you not like to meditate? Or do you not like to listen to what comes up? And are you worried that you may be off track on your course and the course correction could be uncomfortable? And I'd like to highlight that you picked up on this the first day. You're like, man, my energy feels off.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people out there, what I know I take for granted sometimes, that awareness, waking up and be like, wow, I'm off today. Where is it? That's a learned skill to have that awareness. A lot of people are out there walking over gravel barefoot for their whole life. They have that noise going on in the back of their head. They're off 100% of the time, and they don't know what good feels like. So they don't realize that they're off. All the negations acknowledged.
Wow. Very good. Very good. Yeah. They don't know what good feels like. That's a whole nother.
That's a whole. Speaking of hero's journey, it sounds to me you have a call to action going on right now. And it's knocking, and you're hearing the call, and it's like, okay, let's listen. Let's see what the call is, where the next guide is going to come in, what that journey into the abyss looks like. And I'm here for it, man. This is a fun ride, and I'm so glad that this synced up this way, that we get to have this conversation on the show.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because a lot of times when you've been doing podcasts, since I've been doing, so what is that now? 15, 7 years,
7.
right? So 7 years. How long have you been doing podcasts?
4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, 4
so plus. Yeah. So after you've been doing podcasts for a few years, okay, it's kind of like coaching, right? Where you always, you show up with your best face on and your best voice and your best attitude and everything. And you're like always showing up as this Mr. Awesome guy. Right. And, today I don't feel like Mr. Awesome guy at all. Right. Today I feel kind of like Mr. Stuck guy, Mr. Stuck, maybe a little perplexed, a little confused, a little scared. Okay. There's some, certainly whenever changes are coming around the corner, there's always fear. And even though for the most part, I don't project a lot of fear, it's there, there's always that sense of like, okay, things need to change. And then, I don't know exactly what needs to change, but what is that going to mean? What is that change potentially going to mean? I think certainly the podcast that's been weighing on me, not today. That's actually been weighing on me for a while now, what direction I wanted to go in, because I definitely feel like I want to start changing the conversation,
Change. Do you have an idea of where you'll change it to?
I don't know. One of the things that's been successful as far as podcasts go is smaller, shorter podcasts with one topic where you're alone. Okay. So it's not an interview. It's just a topic. Like, for example, I've been writing some stuff down here, right? It's like, ooh, I like this whole addicted to the destination. So I kind of like came up with it, that's a fucking great title, right?
Dude, we did I did an episode on that on the Gym's podcast back when I had a gym. I've seen you taking notes over there. I'm so looking forward to hearing your take on this stuff.
Well, and that's the thing, whenever you get into these conversations, you get vulnerable, right? To the point where it's like, hey, where do you want to take this? I don't know. I just know that something needs, I don't know, maybe it's shorter podcasts where it's just me riffing and me talking about different things. I think I have a body of knowledge and a body of wealth about coaching, about life, that maybe I don't give myself permission to either, I guess the word is promote, okay, on my own, right? Like my own voice. Like I'm much more comfortable in a interview setting because it takes the pressure off of me. Right. We riff, we go back and forth. I ask you questions, you ask me questions.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, I'll turn on the camera to record something and I'm staring at myself. Right. And there's a part of me that's like, turn that camera off. I don't even want to see me, it's such an interesting thing, but that might be the direction. The direction might be there's a need for me to be a little bit more. It's also gonna force me to do a little bit more research. Okay, for me to kind of get a little bit do some more research, grow.
Yeah.
Okay, it's gonna force me to grow a little bit because I don't want to just I most of the time I just riff. I just show up. I show up to podcasts, interviews, and I've gotten so used to being able to just, intuitively get through, either whether as the guest or as the host. I intuitively know how to navigate through the questions, right? And get to a kick-ass podcast, kick-ass conversation is really what it boils down to. But I've gotten to a point where I think I've grown so much that I probably need to hire an assistant. Okay, I have 2 assistants, but not in the sense of like my coaching. I have an assistant that deals with all my social media and the podcast uploads and that stuff that I don't want to deal with. Yeah, I don't want to deal with the production of the podcast after I've recorded it, right? But when it comes to scheduling my clients, and managing my calendar and managing new clients and emailing them and, the reminders, right? I think that's what's been kind of like, it's time to evolve. It's time to go. It's time to go yet another level, hold yourself to that standard. Okay. So, you'll be able to show up differently when you're not so consumed with the day-to-day stuff. Day-to-day stuff is an energy suck.
100%. And anybody who's listening to this, who's ever been their own brand or been in business for themselves, well, I wanted to work on my passion, and now I have to handle all this little day-to-day nitty-gritty. What's going on here? And for anybody listening to this who has yet to experience that or is choosing a different path, just know that this is a nice peek behind the curtain that Omar is giving y'all, that everybody I won't project onto everybody. There are a fair amount of coaches out there and people that are their own brand that still slug through the day-to-day to get to be able to do what they want to do. It's not negation knowledge. It's not all just doing the fun stuff. There were a couple of things that came up for me while you were talking. One being the level of discomfort when you turn on the camera. And being that we're here talking about growth, do you suppose that there is some growth available by getting reps in, by just turning the camera on and doing the thing and getting comfortable?
No question about it. No question about it. It's an incredibly uncomfortable. It's been that way for years, because I remember people used to say, "Oh, you should do those little, short monologues." You know what I mean? So in between, the people that are doing those, have a lot of success. And I did those for a while. Okay. And I got to tell you, like every time I would go do it and I'd be thinking about it. Oh, I got to do that thing again. Right. And so it was a point of contention. Right. But I also know that was many, many years ago. I stopped doing that years ago, and I've grown tremendously over those years. And it might be time to start to get back in and put in those reps, of turning on the camera and really sharpening new skill sets like that.
Yeah. What if you've gotten so many reps in that comes more naturally than you think it will?
Well, after so many years of doing what I do, I'm pretty sure that that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. It's going to just work itself out, just like everything else that I've, there's nothing that I don't do today that I didn't struggle with at some point.
100%. That's and going back to the point I made earlier, guys, anybody that you see on social media or, TikTok or Instagram or coaches who seem like, well, they're helping people. Yeah. there's journeys behind everything that you see. And there's usually no such thing as an overnight success. It's years and years of buildup. And then sometimes everybody, someone will blow up all at once. There were a lot of years of slugging before that. And there was another thing. I'm going to pull the conversation back about 10 minutes here with this one. You're talking about how burnt out or how your energy's off and you feel like you might be burning the wick at both ends.
Mm-hmm.
And I know personally from doing energy work and working with an intuitive mentor and doing energy healing stuff that, that plant medicine borders more on the energy side of things. And is there a chance that the energy you're feeling is it more than just burning the wick at both ends? Is it that you've been helping individuals heal? And while you became so good at holding a space for them, you may have either picked up some of what they were healing or just not forgot, but put aside your own space while you were holding space for them?
Excellent question. And that's, I would say, if I were to put a percentage on it, it's probably 99% of what has happened. I went 3 consecutive weekends working with clients. Now we're talking, I don't take the medicine when I'm working with individuals. I work with psilocybin. If I was working with ayahuasca, I would take the medicine. Okay. But with psilocybin, it's different. It's a much more noble medicine. It's easier to manage. People can come in and out of the experience easier. But we are talking about individuals, we're talking 3 feet away from me. So we're in the same room for hours. Okay. So at least we're anywhere from 3 to 5 hours alone in this space. Okay. And there's a lot that goes on in there. Okay. They're releasing a lot of toxic, they're releasing a lot of toxic energy. Interesting. The last client I had, his knees were like doing this, like he was shaking. His knees were up, okay, and his legs were shaking, right? And I was like, oh, excellent, like, well done, right? And he comes out and he's like, oh my God, my legs were shaky. Did you see that? And I'm like, oh yeah. He goes, weren't you worried? I go, no. I go, have you ever pet a dog before or pet a cat before? What do they do as soon as you finish petting a cat or petting a dog? They shake. Okay. They all shake, right? They know intuitively what to do to release energy that doesn't belong to them. Okay. So anytime you pet an animal, they're consuming some of your energy. So they shake it off. Okay. And so no different. You've got years of pent up trauma, and they actually have, it's called TRE, tremor release exercises, right? Where you can, either sit up against a wall and get like in a chair position until your legs start to shake uncontrollably. And when that happens, you release trauma. Okay. And so I was like, you were releasing a ton of trauma in that space. What I'm not sitting here going is like, oh, where did it go?
Yeah, exactly.
But I got to tell you, which was interesting, because on Saturday, I work with them for 2 days, right? So medicine on Saturday, medicine on Sunday, right? On Saturday, came out of the experience. We had lunch afterwards. And then he's like, oh, I'm going to go take a nap. Right. And I said, oh, I'm going to go take a nap too. Right. And I ended up knocking out. Like I went out. I knocked out. And so when I woke up, I was like, oh, fuck, I got to go check on him, see if he's all right. He might be up waiting for me. Cause I went out, and he didn't leave his room until the following morning. Okay. So what does that tell me? There was a tremendous amount of work that went on in that session beyond what we even comprehend.
There's
okay, a ton of spiritual work, because it's all spiritual, it's all metaphysical work. I've done Reiki before. Not before. I mean, I have a Reiki practitioner that I go to. And so when, just to sidebar real quick, as a coach, when we talk about what I do is I have, my own coach that I work with. I have energy practitioners that I work with. I have a Reiki practitioner that I go to. Depending on where I'm at, sometimes I'll see her every other week. Sometimes I can wait, I can go long distances, right? I have a massage therapist. Okay. So I consistently need to be doing things energetically, spiritually and physically on my body, right? In order to help me release a lot of that toxicity, right? But I've had Reiki sessions where I literally knock out, go somewhere else, come back, I'm on the table, and she's like, oh, I see you went to go do some work. And I literally come back exhausted. So now you add plant medicine into the mix. So he was doing a ton of work. I'm surrounded by this energy, just getting hit by it. I can't see it, but I felt it because I knocked out. And so this is super important. Yes. I'm holding space for others, taking in all of that toxicity, right? And I have to make sure that I have space and time enough to not jump into my week, because that's what's happening. Yeah. I went from, working with a client all weekend to coming into my work week and just being like, whoa, like somebody just punched me in the face.
Yeah, you're still carrying some of that energy that was coming off of someone 3 feet away from you. Mm-hmm. That's 100%. I'm glad I remembered to bring it back and ask that one. And I've been there, man. You've experienced the 4-step and lifted method story work. I have a bunch of those sessions under my belt. I've helped individuals through NNDMT experiences, and I've done remote energy work with people. And that stuff is real. Like, clearing your own field after that is absolutely massive. I worked with an intuitive mentor for 14 weeks because she did a past lives reading on me. Mm-hmm. And that's a whole nother rabbit hole. Let's just say she blew my mind so wide open on that one. Like, I spontaneously cried twice during one of the lifetimes she was describing, because it was like I was remembering something I didn't know I missed. It was beautiful. I worked with her. I was like, hey, if I was that high level in that lifetime and I could do those things, that's still in there somewhere. So I worked with her for 14 weeks doing some energy work, and we found like straight up clairvoyance, seeing things, hearing things, like, I can do it. I'm more of an instant knowing and like energy work, like moving energy for people. And she drove home over and over and over again at the end of a session: grounding cord, clear your aura, bring in a tool to scrub your aura, whether it's like a sticky bowling ball to roll around your body, or a flame to put in your heart and burn it bright to clear your light back out, and dump everything down into the earth, and then send all the bad stuff up into the light. And by all means, if you want to jam offline sometime, or I can send you stuff via Telegram that she's helped me with grounding. But using that, 100%. I'll send that to you on the Telegram chat. But it's a game changer, and it's so apparent when I forget to do it after clearing some heavy stuff for someone, and I get up and like, oh, that was fun, and I forget to down regulate for myself. Mm-hmm. Carry that stuff, man. It's real.
Well, that could be, if we want to boil it down to its simplest form, today just could be a reflection
Fair.
of what happened this weekend, right? So it's important. It's also important to properly unpack these things, just like Chase and I are doing, because I might, give up my podcast, right? All right, because I'm like, I misread the message, okay, and then I decided to just like chuck things. But what, instead of getting rid of, what really is the invitation is to do two things, right? Is to ground myself, right, in order to clear my own channel, okay, because I'm obviously blocked, right? But through what I picked up over the weekend, right? And then the second thing is that instead of looking at what can I get rid of, it's how much space can I create in my life, because I'm overloaded. Basically, that's it. I'm just overloaded.
That's a beautiful way to put it, and there may be some coaches listening to this, especially in the enlifted side of things, are like, well, are you talking about trauma bonding? Like in my opinion, there's a difference between like trauma bonding, like going into the fields with someone and really feeling their trauma and being there with them. And like, there's still, even when you're a pro at managing your breath and staying out of like getting in there with them, there's still residue that gets left over. And that's something to be mindful of. 100%.
Well, again, it's a whole, this could be a whole episode for sure. But you mentioned something about a sticky bowling ball. What's a sticky bowling ball?
So it's like, because I would work with her. It was over the phone. I'm outside of Chicago. She's outside of LA. And as I got into the work, we would three-way call someone in, and I would do work on them, and then they'd leave, and I'd be sitting over in my beanbag just out of screen to clear my field. One of the visualizations was like a sticky bowling ball to roll all over my body and my aura to pick up anything that was there.
It's a visualization exercise.
Yeah. Thanks for asking for clarity, because I'm sure some of the listeners were like,
I'm already trying to figure out, where do you buy a sticky bowling ball, and what does that even look like? And then I'm going to get stuck to the bowling ball. Now I've got another. Now I was trying to clear my era, and now I'm stuck to this
literally
ball.
carrying around a 13-pound bowling ball.
What about fire?
So one thing that she gave me for clearing a house was salt in a bowl with some rubbing alcohol on it and light it on fire.
Salt
in a bowl.
Okay,
and then you put a little bit of alcohol in there because you want it to burn off. Otherwise it'll light forever. And then you light that alcohol. And she said, like, and I have sage sitting here on my desk. Like, she's like, sage and stuff like that's cool. This one will clear a whole house. So yeah.
Salt and alcohol.
And you just pour some alcohol over the salt and light it on fire.
Okay. And I'm assuming that you blow it out.
Yeah.
Once you're done.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's say, for example, right. So once I was done, for example, on a Saturday. So Saturday I was done the first journey, and then Sunday we did the second one, right? So like moving forward, I would take a little bit of salt, put some alcohol in it, light that thing up, right? And do I need to move it around? Do I just
so she told me just like a central location. So
and it'll just fucking
yep.
The whole house just from one central location.
Yeah. So that's the way she explained it to me. I'll double check it and look at my notes. And you can light it and blow it out after the fact. You don't need it burning the whole time, kind of thing. That one.
No. The plan would be just to clear the space after.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
which is also it's gonna help. It's obviously gonna clear everything, including myself.
Exactly.
Right.
It was a sidebar. It was really interesting working with her because this Whoop strap that I wear, it would register a nap when I was out there up in the other end. Like I wouldn't take really any plant medicine beforehand because I found I would actually go deeper with her. Like we went out and found my power animal one time, and it was a dragon, and I got a straight up channel. Like, and if anybody's still here on episode 40 something on this podcast, y'all are used to this. And I got like this channeled message, like this treasure that the dragon was hiding wasn't treasure. It's my power. And I locked it away with him lifetimes ago. And now it's mine to learn to wield now that I've went there and found him with it, kind of thing. And it just came straight through. And this whoop would read a nap with like 45 to 50 minutes of REM sleep while I was on the phone with her, meditating, doing these energy sessions. So
wild.
Wild.
Yeah, no, but that it's wild, but at the same time, I know the experience, right? I know what it's like to just leave your body, because it's basically what happens. Now, what was inside the treasure chest?
It was light. It was just my light and my power that I was, because there was one session that went really deep with a client, somebody I was working on and training on, and I got knocked out of my body, and I was like floating sideways through the ether. Like I knew I was sitting in my beanbag, but it felt like I was sideways. I couldn't feel my body anymore. And I hadn't interacted with anything in well over 48 hours. And even that 48 hours prior was a small microdose of psilocybin. So, and then I got done with that one, and I had another big hit and big download. So we went in the next week just for me, and she got a download that it was, that wasn't something external. It's my light, that I have the ability to learn to use and integrate. And then we went into a cave, and there's like a cave behind the cave, and there's a dragon in there. And at first presented like he was guarding treasure. And then the download that came through is that it's not wealth, it's power, and it's my light. And I'd put it with him lifetimes ago. So I would have to go through the journey, fall in love with the journey. Now we're full circle of going back and finding it. And then he took me out of the cave and showed me that we could fly. So,
well, that sounds like my ayahuasca journeys. So one way or another, when you start, when you become a light worker, then one way or another, you will discover, your power animal. Inside of me is also a dragon and a lion. Okay. So I have there's the light, there's the dark, there's the black, there's the white, there's the good, there's the evil, right? There's the light and the shadow, basically, right? The shadow part is my dragon, and the light part is the lion element, right? But ultimately, I was going into one of my ayahuasca sessions, and I was like, honey, I'm not sure what my intention should be, right? I'm trying to think, I don't even know, maybe it was number 12. I'd done enough where I was like, kind of like a run out of intentions kind of a thing. Like I was firing on all cylinders. And she was like, well, what are you struggling with? I go, just energy. Okay. Like, working with clients is so exhausting. She goes, well, ask it for, more resources. Okay. So I went into the experience, right? And I said, okay, well, I want access to more resources, right? So that I can be a better coach. I have more energy, and then the same thing. She goes, oh, well, you've had these just put to the side.
Yeah.
Okay. For a long time until you ask for them. Right. And again, it's all about the journey. Okay. I have to go out seeking and looking for the treasure. People think it's gold. It's not gold, right? It's your gifts. It's it's basically your gifts and talents and resources to do what you do at a higher level. So like a video game, once you get to a certain level, right, then you have access to different, weapons or tools or whatever it is. And, that's basically how life works, right? Many people stay on level one their whole existence, right? But once you I think for people that kind of level up to get to level 2, right, they realize that there's levels, and I can level up yet again. And so I remember that for me, what was the tools were love and joy. Okay. So there was resources that I had not accessed. My journey was about pain, suffering, fear, loss. So a good 45 years of my life was me. If you could just picture, you ever seen the series Vikings?
Oh yeah.
Obviously, it was a silly question. Okay?
Have you seen the braid?
Right. Yeah. Right. All right. So I was like, so the series Vikings is just one battle after the next, after the next, after the next. There's no and the objective is to win over a city, right? Like we're going to take this city, or we're going to take these, or we're going to go after these people, whatever the case may be. But no sooner do they, mission accomplished, that they're back out to the next journey. Okay. Yep. But never in there do you ever, never while you're watching Vikings, do you ever get this feeling of like happiness and joy. Okay. There is no happiness. There is no joy. There's no love even, right? It's all just arduous, painful struggle. It's one battle after the next battle. And then once you're done with that battle, you're off to the next battle.
Yeah. Others putting axes in each other's chests and shit. Yeah.
Yeah. And so ultimately, what's the point of all this? Like, what's the objective? And I remember it was fucking beautiful. The last, spoiler alert for any of you who hadn't seen Vikings all the way through, but the final episode is where I forget the name of Ragnar's son, the one
Bjorn.
No, but not Bjorn, because Bjorn had died
Ivar.
way before. No, Ivar. No, okay. the one son that made it to that one, I think he made it to either Iceland or Greenland or something, and he met what's his name? What was the name of the shipbuilder? Floki or
Floki.
Floki.
Yeah.
Okay. So him and Floki are sitting at the beach at the end. Did you finish the whole series? You didn't finish the whole series. Spoiler alert. Okay.
I thought I finished it. Wait. Was there a recent?
Did you see Ivar die?
No.
Oh, dude,
I saw Bjorn die.
Right now.
I saw Bjorn die.
This Viking did not finish Vikings. Okay.
So
anyway, at the end,
spoil it for me.
I'm going to spoil it for you. So what happens is this: these five brothers. There's a total of either 4 or 5 brothers. There's Bjorn, and then he has 3 sons, so 4 brothers. Okay, so 2 of the brothers die, okay, in battle, and one of the sons goes off to England. Okay. And then the oldest of the next set of sons, like he ends up finding Floki on this beautiful in Greenland, right? Where it's like, there's no war, there's no battles. There is just rich soil for growing. It looked like Costa Rica. Okay. Yeah. Rich soil for growing, lots of wildlife, indigenous people. Right. And there's the final, like right at the fucking end, Floki, and I forget his name, and they're sitting there and they're looking out at the sunset, and it's fucking peaceful, and it's beautiful, and it's calm. And he says, so what's next? And Floki looks at him and he says, this is it. This is it. This is you've made it. This is it. There's nothing more. Stop trying to figure out what's next. Enjoy it. Like, it was like, I remember watching it just going, oh my God, this is like the life message for every single one of us. Everything is about when's the next battle? When's the next battle? Mm-hmm. When's the next battle? And it's like, wait a minute, hold on, hold the phone. You made it. You're here.
Everybody forgets we're a human being and they try to be human doings.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
How far after Bjorn dying is that episode?
Not too much, because we're talking that was that's the season finale. So you watched Bjorn die, and then there was a pause. And it was a long pause until the final, I don't know, 6 episodes or something like that, and then there is it's crazy. But bottom line is
thought
this.
that pause was the finish of it. And bottom line is, please.
No, bottom line is that I have spent, a good almost 50 years of my life, let's just say 45 years of my life, being on a ship, going through rough waters, landing on new territory, going to war, winning or losing, getting back in another boat, going to another land, going to another fight. And it was pain and loss and suffering and fear all these times. And I just remember being in that experience, right? And asking that question. It's like, I'm so tired. I'm just so tired of suffering, like she goes, well, that's what you chose. You chose to learn through suffering. That's why you're able to do what you do. You can hold space for people where other people could not possibly hold space the way you do, but you had to go through a war to get here. You had to go through a tremendous amount of pain and suffering. I go, I don't want to do it anymore. She goes, okay. How do you want to do it? I go, I want to learn through love and joy, and grace. Right. And she's like, okay, perfect. You're done. Go on. Right. And that was really, I got that in 2 messages, right? I went twofold, right? Which was, one was, I need hidden resources. Right. And, you've hidden the love and joy away from yourself. Okay. Yeah. Because you either felt you didn't deserve it. You convinced yourself you didn't deserve it, or you weren't ready for it, or it was going to distract you, or whatever the case. I got to work. I got to get things done. I got to make money. I got to this. I got to succeed. I got to accomplish. And so it just becomes a long mini series of battles and struggles. And at some point, you need to transition, okay, from all of the, because all it is learning, right? Even when you talk about diving into the abyss,
yep.
Okay, I no longer have to dive into the abyss with the expectation of suffering. Okay, I can dive into the abyss with the expectation of joy. Okay, so if there's something new, if I'm going to pivot off the podcast to do something different, right? It's because it brings me joy. It's because I'm excited about new. I'm excited about something that to create. I'm excited to create, and I'm excited to dive into something new, and I'm excited to grow. And so that's where now it becomes, even though there's some fear because I don't know what's coming, and uncertainty certainly provokes fear, right? There's also now like, well, if I grab onto this, right? If I just embrace that, the universe is talking through my body, whenever my body slows down, right? Whenever it sucks the juice out of me, it means that it needs me to pay attention, right? And listen. And so right now I'm listening, right? So what is the universe? Number one, I need to make sure that I build in time where I am holding my own space, where I can clear, in other words, light the salt with the alcohol and do the clearing and get grounded and get out and sit in nature. You know what I mean? And get a full day, get a full day of rest. Right? When I don't get a full day of rest, then I'm just kind of like moving from one battle to the next. My body doesn't get a chance to recharge, right? And then I start losing interest in things, right? Then it becomes a chore. It becomes arduous, right? I'm not prepared. I'm not giving my all. And, so that, I guess the big takeaway for me today was the realization or the recognition that this energy that I'm absorbing, I must get rid of it. I have to do my process of releasing that toxic energy that I'm consuming, right? And number 2, getting enough rest.
100%. Well said. I'm glad it came full circle there. And I'm glad you made that point about taking the downtime, because the long weekend that my wife and I just took. We didn't have cell service for like 20 minutes around the cabin. We didn't have cell service, and it was beautiful. We found out we had Wi-Fi on the second full day we were there. Like, no, we're not doing that. And I came
Disconnect.
back with so many brainstormed ideas and so many.
Mhm.
I'm going to send an email with this topic. I'm going to add these modules to my program. I might do this. Like, no, that wasn't there when I was running from battle to battle for the last few
Mhm.
months. So 100%. And for, I mean, anybody who's been listening to this, big old takeaways, like level up if you want to find your power and get your downtime.
Yeah. So I think, we started this conversation with growth,
Yeah.
and transformation, big shifts. But really it's been more about healing, recognizing your own limitations there,
Ooh.
because I think that's the big one right here. Okay. If I recognize my limitations, I wouldn't have let this happen. Right. So that just means that I need to create stronger limits for myself, which is boundaries.
Yeah. How are you to recognize your limitations without first bumping up against them?
Yeah, correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, you got
Yeah.
to, we
Yeah.
we're warriors, so we're always going to push.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not until I get hit in the face. Right. Well, it's all fun and games to get punched in the face. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. I think today's conversation is when we think about the idea of growth, it's the idea of self-awareness. Okay, so what we're talking about here is self-awareness, and sometimes you don't know or don't have that self-awareness until you're actually in the fire, right? Actually in the battle, and then you recognize through your own physical limitations that you have crossed your own boundaries.
Got to go into yourself. Some people go out into the world to find themselves. Others go into themselves to find their world.
Ooh,
That's
power.
That's the first
Can you
line.
repeat that?
I can repeat it, and it's also the opener for the first track on my philosophy album. If anybody wants to hear more of this kind of stuff, the link for that will be in the show notes. And some people go into the world to find themselves. Others go into themselves to find their world.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
Actually, I've done both.
Yeah, I mean,
I've done. As you said it, I'm like,
yeah.
I've done both.
Yeah, there's value to going out there, and yeah,
it's you got to go out there, but ultimately, it's going to lead you back to in here.
100%, brother. We're at a natural pause here, so
Yeah.
Where can the people find you? And do you have any last nuggets or mic drops for them?
Well, to find me, the easiest way, just go to omarpinto.com. So omarpinto.com, it's got my podcast. It has coaching information for me, how to reach me, that kind of information. So fastest way. And then on social media, Instagram, Omar Pinto Coaching, at Omar Pinto Coaching. I guess the biggest, tidbit or I don't know if it's a mic drop. And I'm actually formulating it as I'm talking right now.
Let it flow.
Is the importance of recognizing your own limits. I think that today I had no idea what to expect coming into this podcast, but coming out of this podcast, I'm very clear on recognizing my own limitations. And when I have pushed past my own limitations, my body is going to remind me that I have crossed a boundary that maybe I haven't even set yet, but my body has it already set for me. And I think there's a lot of things that are already kind of preset within us, which is kind of like that journey within, right? And so this is full circle back to meditation. This is where you discover, right? You sit in silent meditation and you're going to get the messages that say, okay, this is no longer acceptable. This needs to change, okay? In order for you to continue moving on, you have to recognize your limitations, or I'll force you, and I'll force you. I'll force you is the higher self that resides within all of us.
100%. Well said, brother. Last question. I've been throwing this one in. What does primal mean to you?
What does primal mean to me? Well, there's been a few times where I've had some primal screaming that I've done. And so the word that comes to me, as you say, primal, is visceral, right? Because when I'm in the car and there's moments where, I've been in the car either like bursting in tears or screaming at the top of my lungs just to release whatever, anger, rage, frustration, sadness, loss, whatever, right? It is a visceral, it's a visceral action, right? And so when you say primal, I think visceral, I think physical, right?
Mm-hmm.
So primal meaning that, there's a core, okay? Yeah. There's a primal, there's a beginning, right? There is a source, okay? And so when I'm lost, okay, again, going back to what we've been talking about, if I can get to my most primitive and primal baser instincts, okay, those are the ones that are going to protect me the most. Okay, it's that sense of protection, that fight, flight, amygdala sort of energy, right? Where when all else fails, I can go primal.
Love it. Brother, this has been an absolutely amazing conversation. Appreciate you. And until the next time.
Thank you, brother. This has been so much fun. Like I had no idea where it was gonna go.
Crushed it.
But fucking well done, Chase. Well done, brother. I'm feeling like a light years, difference from when we started. So good on you, brother.
Beautiful.